A gas station manager contacted me 2 months ago about a customer who had not missed a single night in 11 years. Every night at exactly 2:47 a.m., the same man walked in, bought black coffee, paid with exact change, and left without speaking. The employees called him the regular. Then one night he did not show up, and that is when they discovered he had already been dead for 6 months. My name is Rafe Quinn. I investigate things that do not fit. Not crimes, necessarily. Not always even dangerous. Just patterns. Patterns that repeat when they should not. Moments that fold back on themselves. People who end up in places they cannot explain. I do not work for the police anymore. I work for myself. And I document what I find. Not because I think I will solve these things, but because patterns tend to disappear when no one is paying attention to them. The gas station sat on Route 26, about 40 miles outside Eugene. Oregon, it was the kind of place you stopped at because you had to, not because you wanted to. 2 pumps, fluorescent lights that hum through the night, a convenience store that smelled like old coffee and cleaning solution. It had been open 24 hours a day for more than 30 years. The night shift was usually quiet, truckers passing through, insomniacs killing time, people who had nowhere else to be at 3 in the morning. The manager's name was Angela Ruiz. She had worked there for 9 years. When she called me, she did not sound frightened. She sounded tired, the kind of tired that comes from watching something you cannot explain and knowing no one will believe you. She told me about the regular over the phone. His name was Michael Brennan, 56 years old, lived alone about 10 minutes from the station. For 11 years, he came in every single night at exactly 2:47 a.m. Not around that time. Exactly 2:47. He bought a medium black coffee. No sugar, no cream. He paid $1.37. Every night, 4 quarters, 3 dimes, 2 nickels, 2 pennies. Exact change. Always the same amount. Always counted out neatly on the counter. He never bought anything else. Never spoke. Never smiled. He would walk in, place the money down, wait for the coffee, and leave. After a while, the employees stopped noticing him. They started setting the coffee aside at 2:45 so it would be ready when he arrived. Some nights, if the store was busy, they would not even see him come in. They would just hear the coins hit the counter, turn around, coffee gone, money sitting there, Michael already walking out the door. 6 weeks before Angela called me, he stopped coming. The night shift employee noticed immediately. Her name was Stephanie. She had worked overnights for 3 years. She knew the regulars by routine, not by name. At 2:47, she glanced at the clock, waited. 2:48, 2:49, 2:50. No Michael. She assumed he was sick, maybe traveling. Nothing about it felt dangerous, just wrong. The way it feels when you walk into a room and realize something small has been moved. The next night it happened again. 2:47 came and went. Empty store. By the 3rd night, Stephanie started to worry. She went back through the credit card receipts, found older transactions from when Michael had occasionally paid with a card instead of cash. Searched his name online. That is when she found the obituary. Michael Brennan had died 6 months earlier, heart attack. In his sleep, no warning. The funeral notice was short. No immediate family listed. Date of death, the 14th of November. Stephanie checked it twice. Then she checked the register logs. The coffee purchases had not stopped when Michael died. They had not slowed down. They had not changed. Every single night at exactly 2:47 a.m., the register showed the same transaction. Medium coffee. $1.37. Logged, processed, paid. For 6 more months. After Michael Brennan was already gone, Angela called me because Stephanie had started questioning her own memory, wondering if she had imagined seeing Michael those last months. If she had been running on autopilot entering transactions that never really happened. But the records were there. The timestamps were there. The coffee pot counts were there. Every night, the pot showed 1 cup missing at 2:47. Someone had been taking that coffee. Angela wanted to know if it was a system error, a glitch, a prank, or if her employee was losing her grip on reality. I told her I could not promise answers, but I could tell her what the records showed. I drove out the next day, met Angela at the station. She took me into the back office, showed me the register system, the computer that logged every transaction, the receipts, boxed and labeled by month. I asked her to pull up the transaction logs for the past year. She did, and there it was, every single night. 2:47 a.m. item. Medium coffee. Price, $1.37. Payment, cash. No gaps, no exceptions. 365 identical transactions, going back as far as the system would allow. I asked Angela how the register worked, whether it could log transactions automatically. She explained that every sale was recorded the moment the cash drawer opened. Time, item, payment type. Nothing was entered manually unless something went wrong, which meant that every coffee purchase at 2:47 represented a real interaction with the register. Something had triggered it. I asked if the system ever malfunctioned, logged phantom transactions. Angela said no, not in 9 years. I asked if power outages caused duplicate entries. She said they did not. I asked if the register could be triggered accidentally, by vibrations, by nearby movement. She shook her head. The drawer required pressure. Someone had to open it. I asked Angela if I could speak to Stephanie. She called her in early. Stephanie arrived 20 minutes later, looked tired. The kind of tired that comes from not sleeping well for weeks. I asked her to walk me through what happened at 2:47. She sat down, took a breath. Then she told me. She said it was simple. The coins appeared on the counter. She processed the sale. The coffee pot count dropped by 1. That was it. I asked her if she ever saw anyone. She said no, not in 6 months. But she said she felt someone. Like the air moved, like someone had just walked past her, not close enough to touch, just close enough to notice. She said sometimes, after the transaction, she would smell something like aftershave, Old Spice, the same smell Michael used to have. She said it would linger for a few seconds, then fade, like whoever had been standing there had just left. I asked Angela if they had security cameras. She said yes. 4 of them, one at the entrance, one at the counter, one at the coffee station, one covering the parking lot. I asked how long the footage was kept. She said 90 days. Anything older was overwritten automatically. I asked her to pull up the most recent recordings. She logged into the system. We started with last week. The footage showed the interior of the store. Stephanie behind the counter, restocking shelves. The coffee station was visible in the background. No one stood near it. At 2:46, Stephanie glanced at the clock, then at the door, waiting. At 2:47, she looked down at the counter. Her expression changed. She reached forward, picked something up, coins. I asked Angela to rewind the footage. We watched it again, frame by frame. At 2 hours, 46 minutes, and 58 seconds, the counter was clear, empty. At 2 hours, 47 minutes, and 1 second, the coins were there. 2 pennies, neatly arranged, like they had been placed with care, but no hand entered the frame. No movement preceded it. The camera angle showed the entire counter. There was nowhere for someone to stand without being visible. The coins did not slide into place. They did not fall. They did not appear gradually. One frame, the counter was empty. We checked the next night. Same result. Different date. Same time, 2:47 a.m. Coins on the counter. No customer visible. Stephanie processing the transaction. Coffee pot count dropping by 1. We checked another night. And another, each recording showed the same sequence. Empty store. Coins present. Transaction completed. No visible customer. What made it harder to dismiss was the consistency. If it had happened once, it could have been a camera glitch, twice, a coincidence. But it happened every night we checked. Same time, same behavior, same absence. We pulled footage from the parking lot camera next. Stephanie's car sat near the side. A delivery truck passed on the road. At 2:47, nothing obvious changed. No headlights, no doors, no movement. But when we paused the frame and adjusted the contrast, something stood out. One parking space near the edge of the lot was darker than the others. Not shadowed, damp, like the pavement had been recently warmed and cooled. The outline suggested a vehicle, but no car appeared in the footage. No arrival, no departure. Just the impression. Stephanie said Michael used to park there. Always the same space, far enough from the door that he would not be rushed, close enough to see inside. She said he would sit there after buying the coffee 10 minutes. Sometimes longer, just sitting, staring forward, like he was talking to someone. I asked Angela for Michael's credit card receipts. The ones from before he started paying cash. She pulled them from the archives. I started going through them, traced the purchases back year by year. The pattern went all the way to 2013 and 30 Fanny. 2:47 a.m. Medium, black coffee. Then I found the first transaction, the 10th of April 2013, 2:47 a.m. Medium black coffee, paid with a credit card. Michael Brennan. I stared at the date, the 10th of April, then I referenced it with the obituary I had pulled earlier. Michael's wife, Sarah Brennan, died the 13th of April, 2013. Michael started buying the coffee 3 days before his wife died. Not 3 days after, 3 days before. I went back to the receipts, checked the dates carefully, the 10th of April, the 11th of April, the 12th of April. 3 nights in a row, 2:47 a.m., medium black coffee. Then Sarah died on the 13th of April, and the purchases continued every night. For 11 years, I pulled Sarah's obituary, read it closely. She died in a car accident, 2:51 a.m. She had been driving home from her night shift at the hospital, lost control on a wet road, hit a tree, died on impact. I checked the location. Highway 26, 2 miles from the gas station, time of crash, 2:51 a.m., 4 minutes after 2:47. I called the hospital where Sarah had worked, asked if they still had employment records from 2013. They did. I explained I was investigating something related to her death. They pulled her shift schedule. Sarah worked the night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. She had been on duty the 10th of April, 11th, and 12th, which meant she was at the hospital at 2:47 a.m., not at home 20 minutes away. So who was Michael buying the coffee for? I found Michael's address in the credit card records, drove to the house. It was a small ranch home, overgrown yard, mail piling up. No one had lived there in months. I talked to the neighbors. An older woman 2 doors down said she remembered Michael. Said he kept to himself after his wife died, stopped going to work, stopped answering the door. She said she would see him leave late at night. Every night around 2:30 a.m., come back 15 minutes later. She always wondered where he went. I asked her if she remembered anything unusual about him in the weeks before he died. She thought for a moment. Then she said something that stayed with me. She said about 2 weeks before he died, she saw him sitting in his car in the driveway, middle of the night, engine off, just sitting there. She walked over to check if he was okay. When she got close, she could see he was talking. Not on the phone, just talking, like someone was sitting in the passenger seat. But the seat was empty. I asked Angela just to observe. She agreed. I arrived at 2 a.m. The highway was quiet. Only the occasional truck passed, its headlights briefly washing over the pumps before disappearing. Inside, the store looked the same as it had during the day. Too bright for the hour, too clean. Stephanie was behind the counter. She greeted me, went back to her work. I positioned myself near the counter where I could see both the register and the coffee station. I did not stand directly in front of either. I did not want to change anything. I wanted the night to behave the way it always had. At 2:30, Stephanie brewed a fresh pot of coffee, set it on the warmer, marked the pot count, returned to the counter. The routine was familiar to her, almost unconscious. The minutes passed slowly. 2:38, 2:41, 2:44. The fluorescent lights hummed. The refrigerator unit cycled on and off. The store felt suspended, like everything was waiting for something specific to happen. At 2:46, Stephanie glanced at the clock. She always did. I watched the counter. It was clear, empty. At 2:47, I heard the sound, not sharp, just the soft, unmistakable noise of metal touching laminate coins. I was looking directly at the counter when it happened. I did not see anything move. I did not see anything arrive. The coins were simply there. 4 quarters, 3 dimes, 2 nickels, 2 pennies, arranged neatly, like they had been placed with care. Stephanie stopped moving. She stared at the money, not surprised, not startled, just still. Then she did what she had done every night for years. She counted the coins, opened the register, processed the transaction. The drawer slid shut. The register timestamp read 2:47 a.m., medium black coffee, cash. Stephanie walked to the coffee station. I followed slowly. She lifted the pot, checked the indicator. It had dropped by 1 cup, and next to the pot, sitting on the counter, was a cup, a standard disposable coffee cup. White, the gas station's logo printed on the side. It was sitting there. Still, I leaned closer. The cup was not full. It was half, empty, and it was still steaming. I asked Stephanie if she had poured the coffee. She shook her head. I asked her if the cup had been there before 2:47. She said no. I asked her what she usually did with it. She said she poured it out at the end of her shift, left it in the sink. By morning, it was always gone. I walked to the window, looked out into the parking lot. 3 cars were visible. Stephanie's, mine, and a customer's truck parked near the side. But near the far edge of the lot, something caught my attention. One parking space looked different. The asphalt was darker, damp, like heat had recently risen from it and cooled. I stepped outside. The air was cold, maybe 40 degrees. I crossed the lot, reached the spot, crouched down. The ground was warm, not hot, just warmer than the surrounding pavement. The warmth was not spreading. It was not evaporating. It felt recent, like something had been sitting there. Idling, I stood, looked back toward the store. From that spot, the view through the glass lined up perfectly with the coffee station. Someone sitting here would have been able to watch the routine unfold. Then I noticed something else. On the passenger side of where the car would have been, the pavement was damp in a narrow pattern. Not tire marks. Condensation, like breath against cold glass. I went back into the store, asked Stephanie one question. I asked if Michael ever came in with anyone. She said no, always alone. I asked her if she ever saw him drink the coffee. She thought about it. Then she said no. She said he usually sat in his car for a while afterward. 10 minutes, sometimes longer, just sitting, staring forward, like he was talking to someone. The next day, I checked one more thing. I contacted people who had known Michael and Sarah, found a former coworker of Sarah's, asked what kind of coffee Sarah drank. She said black, medium, no sugar, no cream. I asked what Michael drank. She said he did not drink coffee, never had. I do not know why Michael started buying coffee 3 days before his wife died. I do not know if he was expecting something or trying to prevent something. I do not know why the routine continued after his death or why it still continues now. What I do know is that every night at 2:47 a.m., exact change appears on the counter of that gas station. A cup of coffee is poured, half drunk, still warm. And in the parking lot, a space warms and cools where a car used to sit, where Michael used to sit, with someone in the passenger seat. Stephanie still works the night shift. She still processes the transaction, still pours out the coffee at the end of her shift. She told me she does not question it anymore. She said some routines do not stop when the person who started them dies. They just continue. Because they were never about the person. They were about what the person could not let go of. I asked her if she still smells the aftershave. She said yes. Sometimes I asked her if it scares her. She said no. She said it feels sad. Like someone is still waiting, still hoping, still buying coffee for someone who will never come home. The last time I checked the logs, the transactions were still happening. 2:47 a.m. every night. Exact change, half, drunk coffee condensation in the parking lot. I do not go back anymore. Not because I am afraid, but because I realize something's standing in that parking lot at 2:47 in the morning. Michael was not buying coffee for his wife. He was buying it for someone who was already with her. Someone who had been sitting in that passenger seat 3 days before she died. Someone who knew exactly when she was going to crash. Someone who was still sitting there, still waiting, still fogging the glass. And I do not think it was Sarah.